The body adventurers.
Welcome to Human Bubble Podcast, where Plato shares snacks with the weekend and Schopenhauer gets lost in a Spotify playlist. In our freaky studio where cats knocking things over.
We explore the chaos of being human through art, books, music, and philosophy, like a brainy fever dream with good lightnings. Strap in, it's weird, it's wise, and it's probably cheaper than therapy.
Some stories don't ask who we are, they ask whether we are even awake in our own life.
And sometimes one man's silence, like Meursault's, is louder than the entire world shouting.
Here we are in essay again with Stranger, written by the philosopher and the writer who lived in the world where meaning seemed elusive. This experience shaped his views on existence. You know, Nasi? He didn't just write about existentialism. Somewhere I feel he lived in it. He's a writer who questions the meaning of life in a seemingly indifferent world. Should we really care what others think about us?
Mhm.
I really wonder why people run their entire lives seeking a validation from some people who we don't even know. It has become a big issue, and for those kind, I would really suggest reading the story by Albert Camus, or at least just listen to our podcast. You will love and understand the Camus point of view.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Camus's whole life feels like a chain of coincidences, almost mythic in its randomness. Like Horace, he could easily say, "Me, who rose from low life." A boy without a father, without even knowing the father he lost, raised by an
Mhm.
illiterate mother and an overbearing grandmother. Darkster, statistically speaking, he had no chance, not at all, to become a Nobel laureate, the
Yeah,
most influential philosopher of his generation, and the youngest to ever receive that prize. His life reads like a novel he didn't even mean to write. And
exactly.
still there is this one luminous thread. Monsieur Germain, the teacher who walked to Camus's house, sat in the
Oh,
cramped
yeah.
room and convinced the grandmother that Albert wasn't just another poor boy. He was a mind worth saving. And this story always touches me, and Camus never forgot him. He dedicated his noble speech to him, a whole destiny altered by one act of attention. And his life kept blending romance and art like they were shades of the same color, feverish,
Yeah.
fragile. And then came the end, absurdly fitting for the man who
Ah,
shaped the philosophy of the absurd. A car crash, pure chance, blind fate. And he wasn't even supposed to be in that car. He had a train ticket to Paris. Just hours before, he wrote 3 letters to women he cared for. See you soon. But where? How? If we live in a world without a second option for salvation, what does soon even mean?
wow. What does that one even mean?
Yeah,
That's touching. So
here
touching.
we are, the famous book of Camus, The Stranger. I think it's been said already a lot about it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But we wanted to share our point of view about this phenomenal story. When I
Oh?
step into The
Mm-hmm.
Stranger by Kemi, I feel he isn't just simply handing us a story. I feel he's trying to make us question a lot of things. We meet this guy at the time Meursault receives the information about his mother's death, Nessie.
Yeah.
Whenever whoever reads or listens to us would certainly expect Meursault to weep in tears
Mm-hmm.
and have a breakdown because it was his mother. He lost his mother
Mm-hmm.
and was quite contrary to the society's expects him to do. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
weep, he didn't show emotion. It was unsettling calm, almost a blankness on his face, you know? And I swear it ticked the warden of the old age home. Like he was so angry at him. It was visible by the way he looked and talked to him. It's something deeper than raw, unfiltered way of existing in the world without performing emotions. For anyone,
Oh yeah.
who- yeah, for anyone like, well, to put it precisely for society, you know, that's where this story grabs our undivided attention with Musol's detachment for life and his world. Camus forces us to ask unforgettable questions.
Yeah, and the most important thing is to ask questions, not to answer. That's what I believe.
Yeah, are our feelings our own or borrowed from society's expectations? Do
Mm-hmm.
we live honestly or perform what people want us to see?
Yeah.
And there's one more question that I have in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Musol becomes a mirror, showing us a part of ourselves that we don't even know and we don't even talk about it.
So maybe we are Meursault. I mean, there is Meursault in each of us.
Yeah, I feel so in our own version.
Mm-hmm. More or less.
Yeah.
And sitting here right now and in the darkness, because I must confess it's dark outside and inside. I have a lamp. I have a coffee, and
That's
yeah, it's the day before Christmas, and we have this great novel here with us. Like we are not two here, but Camille is with us, and maybe Meursault.
it's something that connects us.
A lot of people, I guess. So Darkster,
Yeah.
and listeners. In such aura, I mean, in this darkness, I just
Mm-hmm.
remember my first experience with the stranger. I was a 13 years old girl, and I remember being taken aback by the narrative style, that cool, stripped down voice. It was my first encounter with Camille. And later, yeah, I learned about existentialism, about the absurd, about everything that circles around his name. But but back
Mm-hmm.
then, I was simply stunned, almost disoriented. It felt like the book existed slightly outside the world, outside time itself. Well, the first sentence, opening sentence, I think three sentences actually. Mother died today or yesterday. I can't be sure. And this opening sentence is the first sharp outline of Meursault, a man who
Mm-hmm.
receives reality without resistance, without decoration. He takes things as obvious, as if they simply
Yeah.
fall into place with no emotional weight. A figure walking through life with a stoic calm, a clear
Yeah.
division between what is and what is not,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
sometimes a quiet existential hesitation humming underneath. Yeah?
That's true, really. He's kind of a person who just absorbs everything the way it is. You nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when people read Stranger, they immediately go like, "Oh, he's cold. He's heartless. He didn't cry even at his mother's passed away."
Yeah, it's the first layer of his character. Yeah.
Yeah, and people just seem to not understand or see through the camouflage.
Mm-hmm.
What's really
Camouflage.
inside
Wow.
of it. But you know, honestly, it's really is it really detached or is he just brutally honest to in the world that just pretends?
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
For me, Museult isn't emotionless. His emotions are unfiltered, to be precise. He didn't show grief. He didn't show. He doesn't rehearse sadness. He doesn't cry for the sake of being crying seen. You know. Some
Mm-hmm.
people does that. Some people cry, so others see them and they see that, oh, they are playing the act, society's script. He simply refuses to lie about what he feels or what he doesn't feel. Simple.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's better than those who pretend on your face when
He's
they're with you, there's someone else, and when you're not around, there's something else.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's better to be like, the way you are. And that's where
Mm-hmm.
society gets uncomfortable. Like, why doesn't he act the way he should? As if it's something they expect him to do.
Yeah. And his agreement with the world, accepting it exactly as it is, goes hand in hand with the absurdity of life. Meursault was born into an unpleasant world and had to struggle with people, with circumstances, with the quiet
Indeed.
weight of existence pressing on him from every side. And here comes the question about placing our parents in a home, a shelter, a last refuge. Is there any real explanation for this kind of separation? Or
Hmm.
is it simply normal, almost routine now? How can we, as an adult, take care of them when we are overworked, barely finding time for ourselves, carrying an
Yeah.
enormous responsibility to protect our aging parents who slowly return to a childlike state? Well, there is Thomas Perez, the man who became so close to Meursault's mother, is a proof that we don't really know, especially when choice is an illusion. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You can say there is always choice. People
There is always
love
choice.
saying
Yeah.
that. Yeah, people love saying that, relatives, neighbors, strangers, accusations come easily from those who don't carry the weight. But but the truth is, nobody walks in our shoes. Nobody knows what they would do until the moment arrives when your mother or father suddenly needs a kind of care that changes your entire life. Yeah.
Only they would
So,
understand if they
mhm.
walk in our shoes under the same circumstances. They would
So
realize
don't
how
judge.
does it feel. Exactly. Don't judge people.
We are so much keen on to judge others. Yeah.
Yeah.
But look at the
Exactly.
mirror first. Yeah.
I think
Going
people
back to
got the
our Meursault.
deficiency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, what about the
You know,
funeral?
hmm
Mm-hmm.
at his mother's funeral, he isn't broken down in tears. You would say, "Oh, again, I'm starting with this," but yeah, I have to say it's something
You
that
have to.
needs attention. Yeah, but I think he actually did care. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people cried loudly at funerals because they expected to be. Some people sit quietly because the grief hits them differently. So in my opinion, like Meursault is the second one, taken to an extreme and just absorbs the things the way they are. The truth is, Meursault feels things deeply, but in a strange, almost physical language. He feels heat, exhaustion, hunger, the weight of sun passing on his skull. His emotions move through his body before they even reach his mind. He responds to the world through sensation, not social cue. And like maybe that's what bothers us the most about him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he forces us to look at a part of ourselves we pretend that doesn't even exist.
Mm-hmm.
The part that sometimes feels nothing when we're supposed to feel everything.
Mm-hmm.
Is indifference the same as cruelty? Or is Musold just refusing to play the emotional theater that the rest of us perform every single day, Nessie? That's the real question Camus plans to ask us.
Yes, and as I said before, questions they must be here, but answer not necessary.
Yeah,
Because it's like the question is, and you can just consider that thing. Depends on the time you are in.
And
So I want to talk about.
yeah,
Yes?
go ahead. Go ahead.
No? No, you said something.
I was just gonna say, like, if you're curious and we always question, that's
Mm-hmm.
what's always being curious means. Like, you question things,
Yeah,
like Meursault.
exactly. And it's a base of philosophy. And we cannot forget that The Stranger is a novel written by a philosopher. So there is an
Yeah,
existentialism, the great philosophy of 20th century.
that's
So we should
mm-hmm,
remember about that. But I want to talk
yeah,
about a part of philosophy,
mm-hmm,
Camus. I want to talk about religion because his mother wasn't religious, neither is Meursault. And
mm-hmm.
he is the alter ego of Camus, an atheist moving through an indifferent universe. In a world without God, a man becomes fully. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
In a world without God, a man becomes fully responsible for the architecture of his own life, his triggers, his mistakes, his fears. There is no other realm waiting to rescue him. And there is only
That's
here
true.
and now. Yes, a straight line with an obvious beginning and an inevitable end. And his relationship with his mother was rough, muted. She watched him, but they rarely spoke. Two people living parallel lives under the same roof. And I have a quote. Um,
Yeah, please go ahead.
yeah, it's a Meursault's what's going on in Meursault's mind.
Hmm. Let's hear it.
Evenings in these parts must be a sort of mournful solace now, in the full glare of the morning sun, with everything shimmering in that heat haze. There was something unhuman, discouraging about this landscape. Well, the sun becomes symbolic here, and Meursault
Hmm.
feels its presence not as a warmth, but as an unbearable pressure. You said that,
Mm-hmm.
like pressing his skull at
Exactly.
mother's funeral. You know, a burning way that follows him, breathes on him, corners him, right?
Exactly. That's how it felt for him. Like one of the strangest and the most fascinating things in Stranger is how Sun becomes almost a character in the story, you see.
Yeah.
It's not whether it actually shapes Musol's emotions, his choices, and even his life.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Hmm.
yeah, and what I find powerful is that the sun has two completely different meanings for him. Believe me, it's really
Hmm.
interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The s- the sun as pleasure and the sun as destruction.
Okay. Tell me about it.
And exactly. So the sun as pleasure. When Isolde is with Marie, the sun feels like warm, comforting, and almost joyful and magical. They swam, they laugh, they had some moments for them, and they made love together. And eventually, Marie falls in love with him, and the sunlight becomes a part of their happiness, right? That
Certainly.
is, yes, that was the closest he ever got to showing feelings like love, and not just through words, but through warmth of a moment.
Yeah. It's worth to said, yeah.
Exactly.
That sun
The
as a
sun
pleasure.
as,
Hmm.
yeah, you're
And
right.
from the other hand, we have the sun as destruction, you said.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And now let's get the sun as destruction.
Yeah. I'm waiting for it.
But then the sun becomes a force that pushes him into movement he can't control.
Okay.
It's kind of sad though. But yeah,
Yeah, it is.
you see, there is twice the movement.
Yeah, the appearing of sun. Okay.
Exactly.
First.
It was just like at his mother's funeral, and the second
Mm-hmm.
was on the beach with an Arab.
Yeah, of course.
The first was like the heat was so intensive he could barely think straight. Everything
Yeah.
around him expecting him to grieve, but what Meursault felt was like the burning sensation of sun, sweat, and exhaustion, the dizziness. I mean, think about it. He travels so far away. It's obvious that he was feeling the heat, right? The weather
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed him more than the emotions. People judge him for that. Because of that grief,
Mm-hmm.
he must look a certain way.
Yeah, and judge him because he drank coffee. I am very
Exactly.
afraid to drink my coffee right now, you know, to not be judged by someone. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're drinking coffee while you're recording podcast, huh?
Yeah, green coffee with milk. Yes, I like, you know, that.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
one you.
yeah. So, but the second appearing, the
Mhm.
sun is on
Exactly.
the beach with the Arab.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so, mm-hmm.
And the sun becomes unbearable, like a physical attack. The light is sharp, violent, and suffocating. And the mussel pulls the trigger almost as if he's reacting to the sun, not to the man. You know, Nasi Kemi writes that the sun struck his eyes like a blade. It wasn't hatred, it wasn't rage, it was the heat, the same force that blinded him at the funeral. So sun becomes the symbol of absurdity, pleasure one moment and destruction the next.
Yeah, destruction the next. Well, he says, like, I still don't know. Only that it surprised me to learn I'd produced such a bad impression. And that's what Meursault says to Salamano. And there is a strange kind of solidarity in their losses. You know, Meursault loses his mother,
Yeah.
Salamano loses his dog,
Yep.
and neither of them behaves the way society expects. So they don't cry, they don't collapse, they don't perform grief. But still, underneath that silence, there is a void each of them has to carry, a quiet emptiness that doesn't ask for drama, but for recognition. Two men standing on opposite sides of life, sharing the same hollow aftertaste of loss. Yeah.
You know, what strikes me the most is Musault isn't really um condemned for the bullet at all.
Mm-hmm.
He's condemned for performing feelings that world like insists he should have. You remember during the trial the the prosecutor barely mentioned shooting instead of like he was obsessed over those eyes.
Yeah.
He was he had this dry eyes and those dry eyes, Nessie, at his mother's funeral. It's almost tragic how real crime becomes his honesty, this quiet refusal to pretend he felt guilty for the way everyone wanted him to be. In the world that demands rehearsed sorrow and scripted guilt, Musal's
Mm-hmm.
simplicity becomes unforgivable. Society wants, wants a whole performance, tears, apologies, a dramatic breakdown, and Musol gives none of it. That's what makes them furious. Because he won't pretend, because is he won't wear the mask they hand him. And like honestly, I've always believed you shouldn't give a damn about society's opinion anyway. We're not here to live for anybody's validation. What people sees or says, it doesn't define us. In the end, none of us have the right to judge us except ourselves. Right,
Mm-hmm.
Nessie?
That's true. Yeah. But it's hard, you know, once we've spoke about it, like people expect the truth, but they are not ready for it.
Exactly. The reason is like simple. We know the best of ourselves, right? We cannot hide anything from
Maybe.
us. Maybe we could hide from our closest friend, our relative, or our friend spouses, but not to us, to ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, it's that's the absurd actually. He killed because of the sun. Yeah. Yeah, that's how absurd Camille let us unfold, and through a blinding coincidence, an existential paradox wrapped in hits. It's everything you said about that. Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, I know.
Meursault becomes the perfect embodiment of Camus's philosophy precisely because he isn't heroic or demonic. He's simply there, a man caught inside a fatal alignment of circumstances.
Hmm.
Let's assume, Darkster, for a moment, that the act on the beach was an accident, a cruel constellation of timing, proximity, and fate. He was there
Yeah.
only because he drifted closer to Raymond, because he wanted a quiet day with him and with Marie. The gun in his pocket, the shimmering air, and above all, the merciless sun. The same sun that beat down on him at his mother's funeral, pressing on his skull like a command. Well, after all this, Meursault didn't consider himself guilty. Ironically, he always felt guilty for the small, ridiculous things. Instead of, he used to say, "It's not my fault." Um, but
Hmm.
for not crying at his mother's death, for not loving Marie in a spectacular way, for not producing the emotions everyone expected him to have. He is a man without dramatic contours. Yeah, no sadness,
Yeah.
no exaltation, no proper sentiment. So, how do we judge someone who refuses the choreography of feeling? A man who appears heartless simply because he doesn't perform.
Before I start my part, I'll just say one thing. This whole enactment was because of this man, Raymond.
Yeah, I remember when we watched the movie with Marcello
Exactly, right?
Mastroianno. Remember that, right? Like we,
Yeah.
we didn't like this guy. Oh my
We
God, this
hated
guy
him.
again.
We hated him to the very core of ourselves. Like, why is he there?
Yeah, and that's the great lesson. How we should care about, people we are surrounded.
Imagine if he hadn't beaten his wife, or
It
I
wasn't
mean,
his wife. It was the girl. He was, I don't know, some affair between them. It wasn't his wife, but yeah,
yeah. I'm sorry. It was like the affair, and
yeah.
those two Arab
And
men were
it's
just
because of
following
her,
him.
because those Arabs, they were her brothers, I guess. It was in the book.
Yes, it's not defined properly, but yeah, you could say that.
Uh-huh.
And if they were not there, if Raymond was not with Meursault, things wouldn't have ended the way they did, right?
Yeah, and during the trial, even it was said like, okay, if Meursault is a friend, because Raymond said like, yeah, Miss Meursault is my friend. So the prosecutor used that like, okay, if this man has a friend like this, so what is the man? What is the kind of a man
Even
having such
French
friends?
was used against Meursault. How
Yeah,
absurd is that?
maybe everything because of the lack of sense of life for Meursault, and he just, he liked this guy somehow. But
Yeah,
this trial was really weird, right?
yeah. I mean, like Meursault only discovered the weight of guilt when others began to place him in it. In the courtroom, He isn't just judged by the moment on the beach. He's considered for the way he lived, the way he felt, the way he failed to match the world's expectation. And somehow, somewhere, that feels painfully human because how many times do we carry guilt not for what we did, but for who we are? During the trial, it's as if every ordinary piece of him is turned into evidence. His
Mm-hmm.
quietness, his detachment, the way he looked at the life without embellishing it,
Mm-hmm.
they turned him into something monstrous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a monster.
As as though simplicity itself is a threat. And watching him stand there, surrounded by voices louder than his own, you feel his ache. I mean, he becomes a symbol of anyone who has ever been misunderstood simply for not performing the emotions others demand. What moves me the most is that Meursault doesn't fight the world with anger. He just absorbs it. The assumptions, the accusations, the story they tell about him, in it's all like it's kind of innocence, not the innocence of being good, but the innocence of being unable to pretend. His trial becomes a reminder that sometimes the harshest punishment we face isn't for our actions, but for failing to shape the society caves us for us.
Yeah.
And that somehow is the most human tragedy of all, Nessie.
Yeah, yeah, Darkstar. Yeah. The trial seems a bit grotesque. And Meursault notices immediately that his lawyer is unimpressive beside the prosecutor. Maybe that's why the whole machinery of justice rolls over him with such ease. Obviously, I replied they were at liberty to do so if they felt like it. I, however, didn't want to be helped, and I hadn't time to work up interest for something that didn't interest me. That's him! That's him! The
That's
man
him, really.
incapable of pretending, as he said. And of course,
Yeah.
he refuses to meet the chaplain. Talking about God is like talking about an unavoidable void. And for Meursault,
Yeah.
God equals the afterlife, equals death.
Hmm.
And
Equals that.
these abstract things, human insist on dressing with meaning. Though we have no language to explain them. Meursault doesn't believe, not in God,
Hmm.
not in the comforts offered by sorrow or love. He cannot
Hmm.
internalize them. Internalize them. He
I
cannot
know.
let anything move him in the way people insist emotions should move us. Well, he allows himself to be blurred, unnamed, a temporary dot on the map of existence. He lives day after day without exaggeration, without complaint, more stoic than a stoic. He understands the linearity of life. It begins, it ends, and nothing beyond. A pure line. After that, emptiness. No reward, no punishment. No. And maybe this is the most human aspect of the absurd condition. The awareness that we are alone in a world that isn't designed for us, struggling with others and with the strange, senseless events that keep nudging us toward our endings.
And Camille leaves us with a question that doesn't want an answer. Only honesty. What do we owe the world? And what do we owe ourselves?
Stay strange, stay awake, and maybe stop pretending just long enough to hear your real voice.